Hi everyone, welcome back to our channel. Today is a great Friday, and I'm ready to discuss the crazy events that just unfolded on screen. Matt won't easily escape legal consequences, despite his attempts to feign amnesia. Noah threatens to expose Matt's true nature, forcing him to confess everything he did to his father. I cannot believe they did that. I am literally sitting here typing furiously at 2 in the morning because my brain is completely buzzing, and I need to get this out of my system before I explode. I mean, we really have to talk about this immediately. Am I the only one who is completely losing their mind over this unhinged Genoa City and Las Vegas crossover madness? I've been watching since 2015, and this is honestly one of the most brilliant, terrifying, and emotionally exhausting things they've ever done on the show. I am feeling so many things right now, half celebrating and half complaining, and I definitely need to share this with people who actually get it. Wait, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's start with that incredibly intense scene in the Newman Ranch gym. I'm sorry, but seeing Matt Clark, the actual devil incarnate, the guy who has terrorized this entire family, blown things up, and literally kidnapped people crying alone in a private gym. It was so jarring and surreal. He was just standing there, aggressively punching that heavy bag like his actual life depended on it, looking completely and utterly broken. The sheer frustration radiating off him was palpable through the screen. You could feel his existential dread. He is literally wondering who the hell he really is, trapped in a body and a life he doesn't understand. And it's wild because I want to hate him. I do hate him. After everything he did to Nick, the psychological torture, the gas station explosion, I want to see him rot. But seeing him sweat and cry, completely stripped of that smug, calculating psychopathic grin we are so used to seeing, it actually made me feel a tiny shred of pity. I hate that the writers are making me feel bad for Matt Clark. It is a testament to the acting, honestly, because the vulnerability felt so painfully real. He is a man who knows everyone despises him, but he has no memory of why he deserves that hatred. Okay, back to the point. Let's talk about Nick Newman watching him. Can we please talk about this? Nick has been through absolute hell and back lately. The severe fentanyl addiction, the terrifying overdose, the trauma of waking up and realizing that Matt Clark and Phyllis Summers literally saved his life in her office. Nick walks into that gym to confront Matt, and you fully expect him to just rip Matt's head off in a fit of rage. But he doesn't. He stops. He looks Matt dead in the eyes. And that was the exact moment everything changed. Nick looks deep into the eyes of his absolute worst enemy and realizes, with complete certainty, that the amnesia is 100% real. You could see the exact second Nick's entire worldview shifted on his face. Because how do you punish a man who doesn't even know what he did? How do you get justice when the villain's brain has been entirely wiped clean? Nick's realization was so heavy. He walked in there wanting blood, wanting vengeance for the drugs and the kidnapping, but he walked out realizing that killing a blank slate wouldn't bring him any peace. But then we have Noah Newman. Oh my god. Noah, when did Noah become this dark, brooding, vengeful mastermind? Noah is absolutely not playing games anymore, and the intense conflict between Matt and Noah is giving me life right now. Noah literally got up in Matt's face and threatened to expose him to justice, swearing that he would hunt him down and make him pay no matter where he tries to hide. It was giving major Victor Newman energy, and I am entirely here for it. Remember when they tried to make Noah this soft, artsy, indecisive guy who just whined about his love life? Yeah, didn't work then either. This dark, aggressive, protective Noah is everything I never knew I needed. So Noah comes up with a plan, but his plan, it is completely, utterly insane. Noah decides that if Matt can't remember his past crimes to face real, satisfying punishment, then they just have to force him to remember. They have to trigger his brain. And how exactly does he decide to do that? By building a secret, exact replica of the Shadow Room right here in Genoa City. I screamed at my television when this happened. I mean, he actually built a replica of their old Los Angeles club. Noah literally brings Nick and Sharon to this secret location and unveils it like he's hosting an episode of some twisted home makeover show. The neon lights, the specific aesthetic, the dark and moody vibe, it was exactly like the LA club where so much of this nightmare started for all of them. The sheer audacity to construct this in secret just to mess with the psychopath's brain is next level unhinged behavior. And Sharon's face when he showed them, she was just standing there, probably analyzing the psychological ethics of recreating a massive trauma site just to trigger a violent amnesiac. You know Sharon's therapist's brain was working overtime, trying to calculate the risks of this insane experiment. But Noah is just so proud of himself. He really thinks he has cracked the code. He genuinely believes he can play God with Matt's brain and control the outcome. Then Sienna gets summoned to this replica club. I felt so incredibly bad for her in this scene. I mean, imagine walking into a perfect copy of the place that holds so much dark, twisted history for you. She immediately admits she feels incredibly uneasy the second she steps through the doors, and honestly, who wouldn't? That club represents manipulation, fear, and some of the worst moments of her life with Matt. Noah tries to play the sweet, supportive boyfriend in the middle of all this chaos. He gently reassures Sienna, telling her he wants to erase her bad memories of this place and replace them with good ones. Like, Noah, sweetie, I love you. But you cannot just casually rebrand a massive trauma trigger as a romantic date spot while you're simultaneously using it to psychologically torture your amnesiac enemy. It doesn't work like that. You can't mix romance with a psychological warfare operation, because Sienna brings up the most valid point of the entire episode. She is terrified that triggering Matt's memories will wake up the monster sleeping inside him. What if the amnesia is the only thing keeping them all safe right now? What if Noah flips a switch in Matt's brain and suddenly the lethal, calculating, explosive psychopath is back online? Sienna knows exactly how dangerous Matt is when he is fully aware of his surroundings and his grudges. But Noah is just so stubborn. He insists that Matt has to remember so he can face real justice. He argues that it isn't true justice if Matt goes to prison as an innocent feeling man. I know some people on the forums are loving this badass, uncompromising Noah, but personally, I think he's playing with massive fire. Sometimes I contradict myself because, on one hand, I desperately want Matt to pay for everything he did to Nick and the family. But on the other hand, I really don't want him to blow up another building or kidnap anyone else. I am so torn between wanting justice and wanting these people to just stay safe. So Nick actually goes along with Noah's crazy idea. He goes back to the ranch, picks Matt up from the gym, and brings him to the replica club. The tension in that car ride must have been suffocating, even if we didn't see all of it. Nick is literally transporting his abuser to a psychological trap. They walk into the club, and at first, there's nothing. Matt just looks around with a blank stare. He doesn't recognize the neon signs. He doesn't recognize the bar. It looks like Noah's grand master plan is going to be a total bust. But then, it happens. The atmosphere hits him. The lighting, the specific layout of the room. And suddenly, Matt is hit with these fragmented memory flashes. The editing and cinematography in this scene were absolutely spectacular. Matt is suddenly overwhelmed by a sensory overload. We see these rapid-fire, disjointed flashes on the screen. Nick, Sharon, Sienna, Noah, and Victor all standing at the bar. It was like a massive dam breaking in his mind, flooding his empty brain with faces and emotions he couldn't contextualize. Matt is standing there, completely restless, his face twisting in genuine confusion and rising panic as the fragmented memories of the shadow room come rushing back. He looks like he is in physical pain trying to process the images, and the camera slowly pans over to Noah. Noah is just watching him from the shadows, looking so incredibly satisfied, thinking his master plan is working perfectly. Noah thinks Matt is starting to remember, and he looks like he has just won the ultimate victory. But I am dreading what comes next. I am literally shaking just thinking about it. If Matt remembers everything, if he remembers the hatred, the Vegas explosion, the kidnapping, he is not going to just quietly turn himself into the police. He is going to retaliate with everything he has. Noah has absolutely no idea what kind of evil he just unleashed back into the world. You cannot put the genie back in the bottle once you force a psychopath to remember his trauma and his enemies. I am so emotionally invested in this mess, and I desperately need to know what happens in the next episode. Will Matt pretend he still doesn't remember just to gain the upper hand? Will he immediately attack Nick and Noah? This show is going to give me a heart attack, I swear. We have to talk about this in the comments because my anxiety is completely through the roof and I need my fellow fans to validate my stress.